12.
Welcome back to Factfinder Investigates. This is a story that we're following closely here. It's the sudden closing of an Emporia nursing home. The Holiday Resort nursing home closed this past Friday, but the state says that those residents can't be forced out so fast and instead will have until the beginning of January. Federal and state regulators mandate that the residents have at least 30 days notice to relocate. The state has only known about this closure since Monday, and the residents were not told until Tuesday. While Holiday Resort did close Friday, a federal agency has appointed a temporary manager to give residents time to find a new place to stay. The state says that it also has a staff on site to assist in the transition. The home is closing because it no longer is getting money from the federal government. According to local reports, 52 people live there right now, but there are only 10 available spots at other nursing homes in the Emporia area. So it is possible that some of those residents can end up finding spots across the state to end up in, especially here in central Kansas. A tragedy in Wichita leading to a legacy on the other side of the world. A settlement has been reached for the family of a Wichita State International student that drowned at an off-campus apartment pool. The funds were hand-delivered to the student's parents last weekend, who have plans to honor their son. Factfinder investigator Sean Logging talks with local attorneys that worked on this case.
An Indian newspaper clipping showing an 8,600-mile journey completed Saturday near Hyderabad, India. Manideep Kohli's parents presented with some justice for their only child.
Very kind, gentle soul. He graduated top of his class in a very challenging subject of computer science, and he had a great future ahead of him.
Wichita attorney Abdul Arif grew up in that part of central India and met Manideep's father about a year ago.
Was in Wichita to receive a posthumous diploma on his deceased son's behalf.
Showing up at his office, seeking help.
You could just tell the grief in his face. So I sat him down, gave him a cup of tea, and listened to his story. And obviously, being a parent myself of two boys, I choked up myself.
23-year-old Manideep Kohli was earning a master's in computer science at Wichita State. A settlement demand letter says in June 2023, he entered his off-campus apartment complex pool with a friend for the first time, not realizing how deep it was.
Manideep gets in, is waiting around, sees a ladder. He starts heading to the ladder and lost footing where the deep end started transitioning. He quickly went underwater. His friend did not see that.
First responders removed Manideep from the pool and CPR restored a heartbeat, but he remained in a coma for 7 days before being pronounced dead.
It used to be a diving pool, and the difference between a wading pool and a diving pool is there's a very steep transition from the shallow end to the deep end.
Dustin Devon, whose firm was brought in to assist, says standard pool safety measures were absent.
Easily been prevented had there been what was required by industry, and that is a rope and float separating the shallow and deep end, a contrasting band going down the side and across the bottom showing where the difference is between the shallow end and the deep end, and also surface depth markers.
Devon says those markers had faded away. In November, a settlement was reached with the apartment complex owner's insurer for $1 million.
What's important to the Kohli family is to spread the word about these safety standards.
Thanksgiving Day, Abdul leaving for India to deliver the settlement checks to Manideep's parents at a ceremony. They plan to use the money to start a school in their son's name.
His legacy and his life and his aspirations will continue to live on through the funds he's received.
A legacy that wants to train others to pursue their dreams.
Story that continues to provide educational opportunities for young people such as himself.
In Wichita, Sean Logging, 12 News.
And after the remaining medical expenses and attorney costs, Manideep's parents did receive about $600,000. Devon says Wichita City ordinance treats pools at apartment complexes as semi-public, meaning that they do need to follow industry standards. To a Factfinder update to a story we've been digging into, Hayes Medical Center sharing a statement about its turnover level and financial losses in response to concerns raised on social media. The statement coming from the hospital's board of directors. Hayes Med saying recruiting and retention are a challenge, especially in rural areas. They say their 2024 turnover rate, 10.9%, is in line with similar hospitals. They also say that they're not alone in their financial losses, pointing to the data from the Center for Healthcare Quality and Payment Reform that says more than 700 rural U.S. hospitals are at risk of closing. A report earlier this year from the American Hospital Directory showed that HaysMed had an annual loss of $5.6 million as of June 2023. In addition, 2 former HaysMed doctors are suing the facility, arguing the hospital's non-compete agreement is too restrictive. You can find a link to the HaysMed's full statement at kwch.com. And if you do have a story, we want to hear from you. You can call us or email our investigators at the address and the number you see there on your screen. We'll look into any of your issues for the next Factfinder Investigates.